weeks remain in the regular season. The playoff push starts now. League leaders Carolina Ascent puts its 5-match win streak on the line against Fort Lauderdale United. Tonight's Fort Lauderdale United match presented by All Year Cooling and Plumbing. Welcome inside Beyond Bankard Field along with the World Cup champion Saskia Weber. I'm Jake Griffith. Pleasure to have you alongside us. We take a look at our updated league table entering match week 30. League standings presented by Delta Airlines. This a matchup of 1 versus 4. Fort Lauderdale finds itself in a 3-way tie for that final playoff spot. Saskia, this time of year, you need to be playing your best soccer and you can't settle for draws.
No, and it's so important to get those 3 points to separate yourself from the other two teams at 34 points.
Fort Lauderdale, 4th in the league in goals, yes, but just 2 goals scored in their last 360 minutes of play. Their offense this year has really been led by the play of the midfielder Addie McCain.
She just dictates everything on the field for them. She will set the pace for the team will play through her, but she's at the top of the board for the Golden Boot race, so she sets herself up for multiple opportunities in different ways on goal. She finds the seams in the box, but she also sets her teammates up as well.
Tonight's player to watch brought to you by Baptist Health. 11 goal contributions on the year for Addie McCain. For Carolina Ascent, it's win and you're in.
And that's what you want. You want to be in charge of your own destiny when it comes down to this point in the table. And they have the firepower up top to do it. 15 different players have scored for Carolina so far this season.
This offense for Carolina Ascent, led by the play of Mia Corbin, leads the league right now in goals, Saskia.
When you get Mia Corbin isolated on the outside, she will take on multiple players, cut inside, call her own number, shoot from distance, find seams inside, and find the windows. She's just a pure goal scorer.
In the driver's seat to win the Golden Boot in the USL Super League, has 1 Golden Boot to her credit back in 2022, won 1 in Costa Rica. Fort Lauderdale United, Carolina Ascent FC will meet the starters and kick off when we return.
What does it mean to feel welcome? To not only be cared for, but to be cared about, to trust. At Baptist Health, this is the warmer side of care. So welcome to being treated with a human touch, where your best interest is our best interest. Here, we advance innovation and treatments through research while educating the next generation of experts close to home. Welcome to the warmer side of care. Welcome to Baptist Health.
Hi, I'm Sloan Smith. We love our Florida sunshine, but a hot house? Definitely not. At All Year, we offer same-day AC service and installation. Need to stay cool? Yes, all year. Need help today? Yes, all year. 0 down financing? Yes, all year. We're South Florida's #1 for comfort because our family is serving your family all year. Call us today at 833-ALL-YEAR. That's 833-ALL-YEAR.
I said I'd rather be famous instead. You're more than a superstar.
The city. Clouds started falling out there. Temperatures staying in the high 40s. Tomorrow's forecast will be in the 60s. The beaches staying around 62.
Back in Fort Lauderdale, tonight's player walkout presented by Amerant Bank. Fort Lauderdale United, Carolina Ascent, here in match week 30 of the USL Super League. Along with Saskia Weber, Jake Griffith, glad to have you with us. Let's meet the starters. Tonight's starting lineup presented by LaCroix Spring Water. We start with Fort Lauderdale United. 2 changes, both at the back.
2 changes in the back with Delaney Lindhall and Gaynor in the back. Fort Lauderdale is going to focus on building slowly through Morshea, through their back line, finding McCain's feet, and then looking for Hamid and Bakam up front. And that's the key to their whole progression throughout the game.
Head coach Tyrone Mears going with a 4-3-3 for Carolina Ascent, and head coach Philip Poole, they counter with a 4-3-3. No personnel changes in this contest, but look for the wing play on the outside.
And that's their bread and butter for Carolina. Look for Murphy to play the ball wide, finding Merrick and finding Aguilera. They're going to run the flanks and then look to serve the box, that or isolate Corbin like we talked about in the open and let her take on 1v1.
Carolina Ascent and head coach Philip Poole with that 4-3-3 formation as we head out to the pitch now for the opening coin toss presented by Beyond Bankard. These teams deciding which attacking direction they're going in this evening. Fourth meeting of 2024-2025 between Fort Lauderdale United and Carolina Ascent. Fort Lauderdale a 2-1-0 record in this very brief series. This is the first year of the USL Super League. Teams still feeling their way out, but they have won back-to-back contests.
It's really, a tale of two teams that like to play possession, but in totally different styles, and that's what's going to be interesting tonight. It's a chess match where Fort Lauderdale likes to slow it down, possess, build up through the center, find McCain. You've got, on the flip side, you've got Carolina, who actually likes to play, possess, but more of a direct style, using those flanks and bombing the box.
Philip Poole, head coach for Carolina Ascent, has talked throughout the year about wanting, though, to strike some of that balance, about knowing when his team needs to go forward, knowing when to utilize that high press, and picking their spots. They picked their spots very well this year, especially during this 5-match win streak.
They have, and they've kept everybody out of the goal as well, and we have to look at the play of Murphy and her back line for that. Having 5 shutouts going into the last 3 weeks of the season is exactly where you want to be defensively.
They own the longest active win streak in the USL Super League, winners of 6 of their last 7. Alex Beeler, our center referee, and we are off and going from Beyond Bankard Field in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale able to win it back along with Saskia Weber. Jake Griffith, glad to have you with us. Here is Carolina Ascent looking to go down this near channel, just out of the reach of Addison Merrick and out for a throw.
And Jake, we see right from the start that attacking possession mentality and looking for that space on the flanks in behind Fort Lauderdale's defense.
Tonight's keys to the game presented by Amarin Bank. Saskia, for Fort Lauderdale, they talk about focusing on the battle of the 2 boxes.
And that's because Carolina is going to bring those balls down the flanks and serve the box. So Fort Lauderdale knows that defensively they have to win the aerial challenges. Goalkeeper's got to be on point, own her area. And then on the other side, they want to slip that ball in, find the seams in their attacking third in the box, and get goals that way.
Out for another Fort Lauderdale United throw-in. Tonight's injury report presented by Baptist Health. The goal is to always try to be as healthy as possible going down the stretch. For Fort Lauderdale, just 3 injuries. The notable one, Lavini Vaca, the torn ACL back in March. She was a huge piece for this Fort Lauderdale team. Started 18 of her appearances on the year. As they work it to this near side, it's Hamid.
It
to the byline.
Shows some of Fort Lauderdale's depth, though, losing such an impactful player in Vaca, but then still being able to come into the second half of the season, into the spring, put yourself in playoff contention, and although needing to answer more in the final third, it still shows their depth.
Fort Lauderdale United will have their first corner of this match, one of the most dangerous teams on corners this season. 5 corner goals for.
And watch for this ball either to be driven near post, tested keeper immediately.
In-swinging ball, sailing to that penalty spot, hacked away for a clearance from Carolina. Lindahl will work it back on down that right channel, laid off inside. Fort Lauderdale looking to play it central, in front, it's tucked home. Jasmine Hamid, she's been their leader all season long, gets her 9th of the year, 1-0 Fort Lauderdale.
And this is Fort Lauderdale actually catching Carolina in transition and out of organization in the back. Watch this through ball here, the look up, and then just dumping the ball into the mix. Buchan misses it, but Hamid stays true, frames the goal, and it's an easy touch away for her.
The two-time USL Super League Team of the Month and Player of the Month selection tacks on her first of this match. That's now 11 goal contributions this season. Such a talented player.
And this is a dream start for Fort Lauderdale right here, to get on the board against the #1 team in the league right now who hasn't given up a goal in 5 games. We're in for it tonight. 2 totally different possession-based teams. Like I said, I think we're going to see kind of a high-scoring game here, Jake.
That Fort Lauderdale United goal scored by Jasmine Hamid in the 3rd minute. It's brought to you by Baptist Health. The clean sheet streak over for Carolina Ascent. Now you're playing from behind the 8 ball very early on, something they're not accustomed to, not just this season, but down the stretch. How do you refocus?
Well, it was a little surprising there how unorganized their defense got caught, because their defense has been so organized and so solid in that moment, and that all came from the quick 1-2 play of Fort Lauderdale on that flank.
Bailey Porter will have this corner, first of the match for Carolina Ascent. 3rd most corners in the Super League this year. Porter lofts it in to this near post. Aguilera will tuck it back inside. It's Porter. Porter's cross, nodded toward goal. An errant clearance away. Pressure kept on here by Harding. Now sent back post, headed in! Just like that, Carolina Ascent pulls a goal back. It's Mia Corbin, 1-1.
Game is on, Jake. Game is on. We're not 5 minutes into this game. You're just going to watch Carolina keep the ball alive here. Harding keeps it down, but just floats a ball into the back post. And Mia Corbin, totally unmarked, tucks the ball in. Fort Lauderdale is going to want that back. You have to stay touch tight when the ball's bouncing around in the box here. You cannot let a true goal scorer like that roam around free.
She had a goal back in March against Fort Lauderdale United. Now her 2nd in as many contests against the team in blue. 1-1. Studer will steer this back to Samantha Leshnek-Murphy, getting her 8th consecutive start in goal for this Carolina Ascent team. One thing you and I talked about before we went on air is down this stretch run, you want to see consistency across the lineup, and they're getting that, especially in goal, after having played a couple different faces in net.
They had, and you have to settle in, especially coming onto the home stretch. You don't, for the mental part of a goalkeeper as well, I should know, I was a goalkeeper, but you want to know, even if you make a mistake, that doesn't mean you're not going to play. And coming off of 5 shutouts, obviously that's over now, but that's still, you're coming in with a certain amount of confidence. Keep that confidence going into the final push into the playoffs.
To you, what does the response from Carolina show about the grittiness of this team? You go down a goal first time in 6 matches, and you immediately get one back.
And that's your best case scenario, and you train this, and you say, okay, we've gone down a goal, it's only 3 minutes into the game. Your immediate response, and the worst are those 5 minutes right after a goal, most goals are scored, right? Because the defense lets down their guard a little bit, or what happens, they're still celebrating, what have you, and we see Fort Lauderdale got punished because of that.
Seth Morshea getting the start in the opposite goal for Fort Lauderdale United, 17th start of the year. We talked so much about the strength of the goalkeeping for Carolina Ascent, but Morshea right now leads the league in goals against average, in line for the Golden Glove.
Morshea's been playing so well this season, and Fort Lauderdale has leaned on her so much to play through her. Their whole focus is to build from the back, and it's not to build from the back center backs, it's to actually build from the goalkeeper, from Morshea. They expect her to actually set the pace. That's the new, I wouldn't say it's the new era of goalkeeping anymore. It's not new anymore, but that's, the evolution of goalkeeping. You are the first line, first pass of attack now.
That is something that Tyrone Mears' coaching staff talked about with us in the midweek, is that evolution of the goalkeeper position, but really how her distribution sets her apart from other goalkeepers.
And that's what you need, because you don't want your goalkeeper, if the other team knows that sometimes the distribution's a little bit shaky, they're gonna high press. They're gonna allow your defense to play you the ball back, and then boom, they're on you. And so it's indicative of the fact that her distribution is solid because Carolina's not pressing her on that back pass.
Barker will roll this one inside at the byline, played central, seeking Corbin again. It falls through.
And this is exactly what Carolina was talking about midweek, Mears, about owning the box. And you're seeing what's happened when they don't. We're seeing multiple chances by Carolina skirting through the box, finding those seams in the box. So Fort Lauderdale needs to not just defend the player, but they need to defend the space in the box as well.
Carolina sent third most touches inside the 18 this year in the Super League. They lead the Super League in shots taken inside the opposition 18. Studer will run all the way down and track that back. A Kansas City Current preseason trainee was Sydney Studer, the former All-Pac-12 pick at Washington State. She'll blast this ball forward. A foot race now. Morche has to come away and hack it away.
And this is so well played by Morche, because this is such a strange ball. It gets caught in between her and her defense. And so some goalkeepers would say, do I come? Do I stay? Do I come? Do I stay? And in that instance that you don't make the right decision or that you hesitate is when the attack will strip that ball and then you're out in no man's land. So for her to come and body the ball and come through and clear this, excellent play by Morche.
Nick Murphy's goal clearance lifted forward now. Studer tries to head it back on. One back in the midfield by Fort Lauderdale. Rolled out wide, lunging forward is Leshnek Murphy. A little collision there, but she's back to her feet.
And this is a nice through ball by Fort Lauderdale into space, just misses the first runner. But then Leshnek Murphy is just quick off her line to smother it, make sure nothing else happens.
We talked about the wing play for Carolina at the top of our broadcast, but right now, those outside wingers and that front three attack for Fort Lauderdale, they're finding ways to get in behind what is typically an organized Carolina defense.
They're finding that little space in between Leshnek Murphy and their back center midfield, their center backs. Now, what I'd like to see from Fort Lauderdale is not just keep playing the exact same ball every time. Have Bucom post up or maybe drop into a false nine and get her the ball faced up. And now she can go at that back line and give you multiple options, shooting or slotting the ball.
This is Carolina Ascent now. Laid off to Tricoli, and we'll cycle this over to Porter. Corbin, the goal scorer right now for Carolina Ascent, trying to give it up. Telegraph pass intercepted, but promptly won right back by Carolina.
And Fort Lauderdale is settling into such a low block that this is going to be a defensive track meet for them. I would push that block up a little bit higher, try to pinch the ball before it hits midfield against Carolina, because now you have Belcom just by herself up there. So even if you do strip the ball, she's got three defenders to try to beat unless it's a perfect ball into the space.
Audrey Harding able to draw a whistle. First whistle we've heard from Alex Beeler. This will give a free kick to Carolina Ascent.
There's a high line by the Fort Lauderdale defense. It's above the D, so look for this ball to possibly drop right in between Murphy and the back of the defense, which is the worst ball for a goalkeeper with everybody running at you and you running forward.
3 free kick goals this year for Carolina. Lobbed in and out comes Morche. Underneath it, another good read for Fort Lauderdale's netminder.
And that's good strong off the line, because what that does is it sets a tone that, hey, if you're going to push this ball in here, if you're going to float this ball in here, I'm going to eat everything up. And it forces Carolina to actually rethink their strategy.
Worked up the near touch line, looking for Hamid, the goal scorer for Fort Lauderdale, out for a throw. Lindahl will toss it in. Trouble at the back here. One back by Carolina Ascent. Played into an empty area. And it's steered back to Morshea.
Jake, if that back pass doesn't show confidence in your goalkeeper, I don't know what does.
Rolled up ahead. Hamid will cut this back central. And there's a whistle in the middle. Kiara Locklear getting tagged with that foul. Just collided with the defender there right at the penalty spot. Another whistle from Alex Beeler. Look at Philip Poole on the touchlines. 14 years in the state of North Carolina between youth academy coaching, collegiate coaching, a former assistant for Wake Forest women who just reached the College Cup final this most recent year in Cary, not very far away from where Carolina Ascent calls home. Also was a men's assistant for the Charlotte 49ers. Some good soccer gets played at the youth and collegiate levels in the Carolinas. This one worked up ahead out wide, but just out of the reach and out for a throw.
Yes, it does. And if you're not from Carolina, you're like, yes, we know. You're going to bring up the college ranks of it. But just such a great soccer community, especially in Cary and in the area, and just with the College Cup there year after year. You know, the TST 7v7 tournament, which I'm coaching in, by the way. I'm taking a team to, so really excited. This will be my 3rd year going, and it's just such a great tournament. But that, you know, facility there just puts on such a show. It's so much fun, such good energy.
Lake Med Soccer Park in Cary. Great memories there for a lot of people at the collegiate level.
Well, not when I was coaching UCLA. I could say the year we lost to Clemson in the quarters. So not the best memory there.
Talk about Clemson, and that brings up another point about the strength, and of course, in the Carolinas, but the Atlantic Coast Conference as a whole, just how strong that conference is. Some will say the conversation starts and ends with the ACC in terms of best collegiate conferences in men's and women's soccer.
And
some
I know,
would say.
yeah, well, and then you have to look at the Big Ten absorbing USC and UCLA and stuff, and then, you know, how that's changed the Big Ten as well.
Here's Carolina on it now, weaving through, sent toward the net and fired in!
What a goal by Carolina. Just the patience to move this ball around the pitch, find the timing and the space and those seams, and this is what I was talking about with Fort Lauderdale. You can't just mark the player. You have to watch the passes into space in the box. This is almost a bit too easy. Just as a nice touch around, but then catching Morshea a little bit off her line from that distance. So the chip is on there. Look, it's a great goal, not taking anything away from it, but I think Morshea gets caught a little bit off her line and out of position here, and that back post is wide open. If she's a half a yard back or a yard back, she can get to that ball and probably get a tip on it footwork-wise.
2 unanswered now on the road for Carolina after going down. Audrey Harding getting her 4th of the year.
But it's just good work by Harding, taking her time, teeing that up. It just takes the touch inside and realizing that Morshea is just caught off her line. But still, it's a quality goal. Far up her 90.
Harding now 4 to her credit. Not sure she scored as brilliant of a goal. She's a talented player, but that's a highlight reel goal right there for Audrey Harding. The former 38th overall pick by Washington Spirit. Carolina Ascent, as a reminder, they will clinch a playoff spot with a win. Now there's a whistle from Alex Beeler and a foul given. Alicia Knox, former Angel City draftee, gets whistled for the foul, and this steered back to Lejnek Murphy.
Well, I think Fort Lauderdale is going to kind of have to figure some stuff out defensively here. I think that they were already aware that the flanks were going to be a problem, but they need to actually stop the play down the flanks, filter things inside. Because you know whose name we haven't called, and we're 20 minutes into the game, is Addie McCain's. And so Carolina's doing a really good job of keeping the ball out of the center and using the flanks. Fort Lauderdale needs to push the ball into the center so they can play their game.
Switching pass out wide, near side. Heavy challenge there applied by Delaney Lindahl. Players still down. Now a collision. Alex Beeler will have a quick chat with Lindahl and Parker. Meanwhile, player down for Carolina.
Just the first challenge here. You see Merrick with the takedown, and it's just body to body. Just two players going for a ball that popped a little bit too far away from Merrick. It's getting chippy. Can you tell we're in the run for the playoffs right now?
Merrick, the player for Carolina, who is down, is back to her feet now with the help of her teammates.
The second play on the ball was a foul. I will say that.
Addison Merrick, not a player that really shies away from contact as well. 25 tackles won this season for Merrick, the former KC current defender.
Back to what I was saying about Fort Lauderdale on those flanks, like Knox and Smith are going to have to double back and help out Gordon and Lindahl and double team and shut those services down from the outside, and or getting, you know, you don't want Lindahl, you don't want Gordon, you don't want them isolated 1v1. This is Carolina's, like I said, bread and butter. They want to get isolated, they want to take you on 1v1, so Fort Lauderdale's going to have to be doubling back and shutting down those flanks.
Out for a throw, Carolina, and Merrick will throw it in. We talked about that high press as well from Carolina, which has been able to win that ball back in advantageous spots. If you're Fort Lauderdale right now, how do you neutralize some of that high press that we're seeing here?
And the thing with Carolina on their high press is they throw so many numbers around the ball. So they put the initial press on, they invite that first pass, whether it's from Morshea or one of your outside backs, and then they pounce on you. And so then they slowly close in, and that second pass isn't there, the third pass isn't there, and that's when they win the ball over. Fort Lauderdale, in order to beat that, has to move the ball quicker. It's got to be one touch, 1-2 touch, in through the seams, out through the seams, out the other side. They have to spread Carolina out if they want to be effective in their build.
Throw in toward the final third for Carolina Ascent. 2 unanswered goals right now. Tricoli will roll it in behind. Merrick will race it down. Merrick unleashes the cross, deflecting around that 18. Lauderdale just struggling to clear the lines right now, and it's out for another Carolina throw. Back down low. This is Riley Parker. She'll peel this back. Merrick stands this cross up. That back post, left it short, off the volley, and hit very high, to say the least. Out for a goal kick.
You know, that's good work by Parker just to keep that ball alive. She's so strong on the ball, Riley Parker, like holding off players and everything, allowing for the overlap, allowing for the 1-2 play, posting up, and then that service across. But that was better defense by Fort Lauderdale. You saw they were touch tight. You saw there wasn't really much space to maneuver for Carolina in the box.
Pressure here as Morshea will distribute it to this near side. Hamid turns. Hamid wanted to roll it ahead, had a teammate streaking in toward goal.
and Hamid's gonna want that one back, because had she bent that ball properly in, Balcom would have been right on that with her speed and her dynamic run into that seam. It just went a little bit too direct.
Lifted over the top, Parker underneath it now. For some support, Parker will guide this back to Porter.
That's actually good patience by Carolina, because they're such a direct team. I think Parker should have taken a go at that on the half volley. She had the window to do it.
Back ahead to Porter. Tries to corral that ball in on the move. Now laid off to Corbin. Porter again from Aguilera. Here's Aguilera. Lifted ahead, takes a hop over the defender. Parker able to keep it in on that end line. A well-timed challenge there. Defender goes to ground. Now a whistle for a stoppage. Fans Fort Lauderdale United will be back in action at home on May 3rd against Brooklyn FC. 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Get your tickets at ftlutd.com. Addison Merrick over it. Acquired by this team from the Utah Royals, as Merrick will roll it ahead. Too much behind that. Parker can't catch up to it, and it's out for a goal kick.
A little too much. I'm surprised Merrick didn't take a look up to see how far Morshea was off her line. With a good strike and a solid foot, that shot's actually on, quite possibly, if it's a driven ball. If you try to flight it in on goal, Morshea will have the footwork to get back. We'll keep an eye on that.
Shea looking at this near touchline. Change of possession will occur via the throw in. Porter will toss it in. Parker able to win it back for Carolina. She's not just a player who can score goals. Came over, did Parker in a trade with Tampa Bay back in January of this year. Made 10 appearances with Tampa Bay Sun. Now rolled back ahead, Corbin. Corbin shot blocked.
You and I talked about this before the game, about Fort Lauderdale being their own worst enemy. And under the press, they tend to give away balls where they don't have to. They force it, and unfortunately they're doing it in the middle of the field and in their defensive third, which Carolina wants and is pouncing all over.
Fort Lauderdale had been so good in the first half, allowed the fewest first half goals in the league, but now 2 unanswered for Carolina to seize control back of this contest. Audrey Harding, Mia Corbin, the 2 goal scorers right now for Philip Poole's side. Long throw in toward the 18, headed out, and Carolina will have another corner.
And you can kind of see the frustration in Addie McCain, because all she's doing is playing defense. She has yet to be able to dictate the pace or play of her team. And you know that's what they're leaning on her to do, but they can't get her the ball.
On these set pieces, Carolina, they really like that near post. We saw it in their match against Spokane, had 4 crosses completed off corners to either the near post or the penalty spot.
Yeah, and Aguilera tends to, we'll see if she kind of targets the top of the 6 right here, but she can mix it up. She's really good on her service here, and might go far post.
Lofted in toward the near side, can't take the touch though, and it's out for a goal kick.
And that looked like a bit of a miss hit.
How about this start for Carolina Ascent? 30 minutes in, 2 goals, 2 different goal scorers.
And that's this tail of their season, isn't it? 15 different goal scorers on the season. Just shows they can come from everywhere, which makes it incredibly difficult to defend. Because the minute you think you're shutting down Harding or Corbin or Hutchinson, somebody else is scoring a goal.
Merrick wins it back off the high press. It's Parker with it now. Parker cutting inside. No foul given. Alex Beeler waving the arms. Merrick will pull it back in though. This is what we've become so accustomed to seeing from this Carolina Ascent team, just attacking in waves, and Fort Lauderdale has struggled with that in this first half.
And I think going into halftime, I know we have a bit of time here, but Fort Lauderdale is going to be frustrated with their lack of possession because they are a possession-based team and a slow possession-based team, and they have barely any of it. Balcom has not been involved. They haven't been able to find her, even on a post-up, on a pass high, so people can run off her. They're really struggling to find their key players. On the flip side, Carolina's doing a great job shutting down their key players and shutting down their game plan.
Those possession numbers really tell the full story right now. 62% possession for Carolina Ascent. A lot of coaches nowadays, they will talk about how, look,
possession doesn't matter.
Possession doesn't matter. It's about being purposeful with possession. Danny Cruz in the USL Championship comes to mind as a guy that's...
Right, and it is purple. You can possess, and if your possession is just across your back line and you have 60% of the possession, but all you did was pass the ball between your wing backs and your center back and your goalkeeper, that's not purposeful possession. But right now, I think Fort Lauderdale is used to having purposeful possession against their opponents, and Carolina's taking that all away.
On it now is Carolina Ascent. Slow, patient build-up here. Corbin knifing through defenders.
And you can see that Fort Lauderdale has kind of brought that line of defense on their press a little bit higher. They're not in the low block anymore, trying to solve this problem a little bit and spread Carolina out.
Shea now. Fort Lauderdale looking for options going forward. We've crossed over the half-hour mark here in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale United going out in front early. Carolina answering with 2 unanswered. Coughed up again. Ascent on it. Switching pass ahead. Looking for Addison Merrick. Just out of the reach.
I think Carolina's going to be a little bit frustrated at their lack of quality after some of these turnovers. They're forcing the problem. They're getting the ball stripped in their attacking third, in Fort Lauderdale's defensive third, but they need to produce from that. They should have more opportunities on goal. They should have more goals right now. They're totally controlling the game, but they're having trouble in the attacking third, on that final pass.
Whistle from Alex Beeler will bring a stoppage to this. You look back for Fort Lauderdale in their match against Dallas, 59 touches allowed in zone 14, that pocket in front of the 18. Carolina, they haven't really taken advantage of some of that in front of that golden hole, as they call it, the pocket in front of net.
Exactly, and that's what I was saying about as soon as they strip that ball, they need to be more direct in their play, but not try to get in the box every single time. Drop some bombs in, hit a banger from outside. All that does is, number one, it keeps your goalkeeper honest and on our line, right? Because you can see Shea starting to creep up her line a little bit because she knows all the balls are being played into the box, right? So she's trying to close that space. And then it opens up other pockets for you and other options if you mix up those shots.
Carolina Ascent, despite the 2-1 lead, for those of you who are enjoyers of the advanced analytics, 0.24 expected goals right now. So the goals really aren't necessarily the greatest things in the world. They're coming for Carolina, but they could be getting more.
They could be more efficient and more effective in and around the box. They're getting the turnovers, they're getting the ball, their press is working, but what's the next step and what are you doing with it?
Rolled out wide. Carrying it on now, it's Harding. Harding knifing in, Harding centering, takes a deflection on its way out. Carolina Ascent wins another corner, their third of the first half.
And watch here as Harding just turns on the jets and says, you know what, I'm going to call my own number and beat everybody with pace. But it's a good save by Morshea. She makes herself big. She comes out and she just gets that far foot to it. Just to have the body language and to be able to control your body to kick that foot out at the last minute, it's a huge save. But good attack and good explosiveness by Harding.
Carolina Ascent, they lead the league in corner goals this season. They have 6 to their credit.
And Aguilera tends to mix this up. That's what I was saying. She'll go back post, so it's hard to dictate where it's going to go.
Aguilera swings it in, headed over the outstretched arms of Morshea. 3 unanswered.
And what a ball by Aguilera. This is her specialty. She's a corner kick specialist, and she puts this right on the money. Marked up. This is a great flick on by the head. Morshea should have stayed on her line. If you come as a goalkeeper, you've got to get the ball.
Sarah Tricoli makes it 3 different goal scorers in the first 45 minutes. All Carolina on the road since going down 1-0. What a response for that man's team, Philip Poole. League leaders, Carolina Ascent.
And when Morshea looks back at this, she's going to see that. She comes, makes herself big, but she's in no man's land. And this flick, had she stayed on her line, had she said, hey, you know what, I'm not going to get to that, so let me just stay on my line and play the flick, she would have stayed on her feet and just caught that ball. She took herself out of the play, which made the flick basically into an open goal.
Neck Murphy will have a goal kick for Carolina Ascent. You have to be impressed with what they do offensively. We talk, like we said in the open, we've talked so much about them defensively because of the clean sheet stretch with the 5 consecutive shutouts, but make no mistake, this is one of the most gifted offensive teams in this league, and they're showcasing it right now.
But you asked the question of how do you respond to that goal in the 3rd minute by Fort Lauderdale. I think we're seeing it. You know, they got caught unorganized on defense. We haven't seen that again. The response is 3 goals on the board, and they haven't taken the pedal off the gas.
If you're a team,
or the foot off the pedal. That's what it is.
If you're a team like Carolina, though, that's streaking going into the playoffs, as this one lifted up ahead for Fort Lauderdale, Hamid tries to roll it through, and it is cleared out. But if you're a team like Carolina that's streaking going into the playoffs, and you've had 5 consecutive clean sheets, do you want a little bit of that adversity, giving up an early goal to be able to build going into the postseason?
Look, you always want to win, and you always want to keep a clean sheet. But the key is you still want to learn, and you don't want to get complacent. Oh, you know, every game we're not getting scored on, we're not getting challenged, because you will run into that one team.
Knox from that far flag, in the thick of it, punched away, but there's a whistle.
Yeah, you're going to see, if you watch here, Jessa Penalty on the keeper, on Smith, backing up into the keeper, not allowing her to have that space in front of her to come for the ball, to give her the opportunity to come for a ball. Boxing her out.
Taylor Smith, a player for Fort Lauderdale that really underscores what they're trying to do with this USL Super League. Signed a contract with them at 16 years old, just 17 getting the start, her 17th of the year. Now here's Carolina. No options.
Oh my, I couldn't imagine signing a contract. I was like, what was I doing when I was 16? I was playing, but I was playing like 3 other sports too.
Yeah, I think I was in high school. I couldn't imagine that at all. It's lifted to the top of the area.
But you know, these players nowadays at that age and coming up to the academies, they're ready. Some of them are absolutely ready to turn pro, and we're seeing it across all leagues and on all fronts and in Europe and everywhere. And you know, it's impressive to me because, like I said, when I played, you went through the college route. You didn't go straight to pro. So yes, we had young players on the national team. I think of like Tiffany Roberts, or I think of like the Fair sisters and stuff like that. And even Mia was young when she first got onto the national team, Mia Hamm. But you went through college, and that was the route you took. You didn't go play pro.
Speaks to the strength of the American soccer structure now, of how it's growing and really emphasizing the developmental aspect now, as we see with academy structures and on the MLS side of MLS Next Pro, and in USL as well, importance of the academy system.
And we're seeing that by younger and younger players coming up and actually being able to compete at this level. It's exciting. What an exciting time to be a player.
Lifted ahead toward Hamid. Hamid carries it inside. Now cuts to the end line. Hamid's cross cut out. It's another corner for Fort Lauderdale. I'll do you one better real quick in terms of the age. Carolina Ascent, Stella Spitzer, 15 years old on this roster.
I was a freshman in high school. That's good defensive work by Carolina, because Jasmine Hamid likes to cut inside into the top of the 6, and keeping her on her left foot outside is taking that strength away from her.
Third corner of this first half for Fort Lauderdale. Smith into that back post. Pinballing around the area, looking for the clearance. It's a short one. Lindahl tries to work it back ahead. Whistle sounds from Alex Beeler for a stoppage and a foul.
And it's a good service into the box, and it caught Murphy totally out off her line. Again, much like Morshea, but Murphy did not come up with the save or a touch onto the ball, and it was an open net. But Fort Lauderdale just couldn't get on the end of it.
If you're Fort Lauderdale, how do you capitalize on these final 5 minutes plus added time at the end of this first half and try to just get a little bit of momentum in the positive direction at the break?
If I were Fort Lauderdale, I'd do 5-minute high press. I'd push up the field, do a press, see if they can strip a ball, get in with a goal, try to get on the board right before halftime. 2 to 3 would changes a game, and it changes your momentum going in at halftime, your thought process. Hey, we're just one goal away. We had the momentum going in. We scored the goal. But I would high press this last 5 minutes. I'd play in Carolina's half of the field, which they haven't done the majority of the game.
Possession for Carolina has dipped just slightly, down from 62 to 60, but they've still had the lion's share of the possession. Most of it has been in that attacking end of things. Free kick lifted up ahead for Fort Lauderdale. Knox plays it forward, but the offside flag is up.
And that's that run I was telling you, that everybody's making that same run for Fort Lauderdale. They're running at the line, running at the line. The line is holding. They've been called offsides a couple times so far. But you know where the space is then? The space is in front of the line. So you want to look for McCain, you want to look for Knox, you want to look for Smith, making those secondary runs up in behind Bocom, behind Hamid, behind Locklear, and then seeing or having Locklear tuck inside as another 10 in a sense, and trying to play in front of that line.
A credit to Carolina though, because Addie McCain, just 22 touches in this first half. We talked about her at the top of this broadcast, about the importance of her as she is now with it, but they have neutralized her ability to get on the ball.
They've shut down her in there as the 6. Now, whether Fort Lauderdale makes a change coming in, look, you got to go for it, in my opinion. Fort Lauderdale needs 3 points. They don't want to drop, right? They don't. If anything, you want to tie, right? You want to stay where you are. You want to. But if you want 3 points, I would come out and we've seen McCain play in every position, at the 10, at the 9, at the 6, at the 8. I would push her up to the 10, and I would go more on an attack mentality. I would drop maybe Knox and Smith in as a double pivot in behind her and allow her to move forward a little more. This is your golden boot race, right? She is at 9 goals right now in the top 4 for the golden boot, and she's sitting in the 6, not getting on the ball.
moving her around is something that this Fort Lauderdale coaching staff talked about with us in the week. They said that she's the type of player, she comes in to the office and says, play me wherever is most beneficial for the team. Put me wherever I can be effective. They played her at the 9, the false 9, the 10, and at the 6 tonight.
I would, for me, play her. I would change at halftime. I'd play her at the 6. You've basically taken one of the league's top scorers, and Carolina totally taken her out of the game. She's stuck in the defense right now. She's not effective on offense, and because of that, Balcom's not getting the ball, Hamid's not getting the ball, Locklear's not getting the ball, so you're taking 3 other players totally out of the game.
It is fascinating to see what kind of ripple effect that has, though, on Fort Lauderdale. And it speaks to how important Addie McCain is, because she is the table setter for everything that Tyrone Mears and Fort Lauderdale United want to do.
Yeah, we saw her get out the other side right there, and that was a great 1-2 touch and out the other side. And now, look, Fort Lauderdale is in their in the attacking third, and Carolina's defensive third. But I would like McCain to be receiving the ball higher up the field and facing the back line of Carolina, running at them.
Here is Carolina. Merrick leading the charge. Has to steer this into the middle. Intercepted by Fort Lauderdale United and won back by Hamid. Pressure applied here by Carolina. Have to guide this back to Morche. And there's more of what we talked about with Carolina in terms of throwing those numbers forward that has caused Fort Lauderdale some significant issues in this first half.
They're not doing it as hard as they were in the beginning, and I think that goal kind of told them they have to time it right. It can't just be go, 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 go. You have to make sure you're organized. In order to go forward, in order to press forward, you have to make sure what's going on behind you is organized. I think they get caught unorganized. That's why Fort Lauderdale got on the board. But now it's much more of a directed attack. It's more conscious about, hey, everybody's in the right positions on the field. Let's go forward.
There's 1 minute of added time at the end of this first 45. As Fort Lauderdale wins it back. Some significant questions to answer at the half if you're the home side, Fort Lauderdale United. Whistle sounds from Alex Beeler, and we have our first yellow of the evening as Audrey Harding goes into the book.
Yeah, you just saw Harding get beat with pace on that flank, so she just grabs a handful of shirt and takes a big tug. That's a yellow card all day long. You're gonna see her get beat right here and just get beat with pace. So, hey, you know what? Whoop! Gonna slow you down. But you kind of want to be careful with stuff like that. Being at the top of the table and such an important player as Harding is to Carolina and a starter for Carolina, you're coming into the playoffs. So there's no reason to make that foul, and now you have a card. And if you start accumulating cards, you're sitting on the bench for a playoff game, and that's not what you want. Or you're sitting on the bench when your team really needs you. So smart fouls, people, smart fouls.
Never want to put your life in the hands of the official, so to speak.
Yeah.
Carolina on it. The whistle from Alex Beeler, and we've reached halftime in Fort Lauderdale. A dominant first half performance, Saskia, from this Carolina Ascent side. 3 unanswered goals.
And as much as I'm saying that Carolina needs to be more efficient and effective around the D and in the D, they're still got 3 unanswered goals. But I think they still know that they should be higher on the board. They should have had more opportunities, more chances on goal. And when you come out in second half, how do we make that happen? Now, on the flip side, for Fort Lauderdale, they're going to figure out how to get their players that they need on the ball that are their playmakers like Addie McCain, Knox, Balcom. How are we going to get the ball to them? How are we going to get to control this second half?
A 6-1 advantage in shots for Carolina Ascent, and we're pleased to be joined by Mia Corbin, one of the goal scorers for Carolina. Mia, an impressive first half performance for your team. What's said on the pitch, the response after going down an early goal?
You know, it was, 2-3 minutes in? Like, there's a lot of game left. You know, I think this second half we've really been focusing on being together as a team and working for each other. So I feel like there just wasn't even a question about when we were going to score and get back in this game. So just happy I was able to help the team to get one early and just be right back in there.
Emmy, what a great response. Saskia Weber here. Going into halftime and coming out second half, what do you think the focus is and the conversation's going to be in the locker room?
Just keeping the same intensity, you know, keep going after them. We're not letting up, you know. It's 0-0 in our heads, and we're just going to keep going.
Sounds good, Mia.
Appreciate you taking some time to talk. Best of luck in the second half.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
3 goals in the first 45 minutes from 3 different goal scorers, including Mia Corbin. It's a 3-1 lead at the halftime break for Fort Lauderdale, or for Carolina. Tonight's halftime presented by iHeartRadio.
Success doesn't come easy. It takes grit, hustle, and relentless effort. Every step forward brings you closer to greatness. This is your moment. Elevate your game. El Jimador Spiked Bebidas.
What launches this ball? And finds the winner. Oh, what a play! It's a bending effort.
We all have goals. But let's be honest. Most of us aren't going to be professional athletes. But if your goal is to finish your degree, we can help. Come to a university that puts your goals first. Bellevue University, your partner in finishing goals.
With over 2 decades of experience in the payment industry, Beyond Bankcard is more than just a payment processor. We are a partner dedicated to your success. Our mission is simple: to provide innovative, flexible payment processing solutions tailored to meet your needs.
We partner up with various companies, restaurants, retail, smoke shops, convenience store, you name it, we have the POS system for it.
Whether it's tools we provide or the relationships we nurture, Beyond Bankcard is here to power your payment solutions.
What does it mean to feel welcome? To not only be cared for, but to be cared about, to trust. At Baptist Health, this is the warmer side of care. So welcome to being treated with a human touch, where your best interest is our best interest. Here, we advance innovation and treatments through research while educating the next generation of experts close to home. Welcome to the warmer side of care. Welcome to Baptist Health.
Back in Fort Lauderdale, it's halftime between Fort Lauderdale United and Carolina Ascent. A 3-1 lead at the halftime break for the away side. Carolina. Look at news and notes from around the USL Super League. The biggest one coming earlier this week, the league announcing a historic partnership with Gainbridge. They get the naming rights, a huge investment into USL Super League. Saskia, it really underscores just how much this league is growing.
And it's such a super partnership for the league. Just to watch it grow, it's just going to keep going every year. More teams, more investment. Invest in women's sports, everybody.
As far as playoff contention goes, we talked about the qualification scenarios for Carolina. Fort Lauderdale trying to make the playoffs. Lexington and DC officially eliminated from that playoff race. And then Allie Thornton, first Super League player to reach 10 goals this season. Of course, Mia Corbin was not far behind her.
And there's still 3 more weeks left for regular season goals, and at the rate Carolina's going, Corbin could surpass this.
So much to cover around USL Super League in terms of news and notes. For more on the league, Marion Crowder, Anna Whitty, take it away.
The USL Super League signs a new entitlement partner that will go into effect next season. We break down all the latest news.
Plus, we've got the playoff race, which is heating up so tightly, and we give you our pick for MVP and the games you should watch for Match Day 30.
Our out-of-town scores presented by Delta Airlines, Brooklyn FC, DC Power. That game suspended very briefly. They're back underway. DC right now, Saskia, on top of Brooklyn. A surprising, eye-catching result there.
It is, but what really catches my eye is that Spokane-Tampa Bay game with Spokane 3-2. They have found their stride in this late half of the season.
Dallas and Lexington SC, 1-0. Dallas out in front. We'll head back to break and return. Halftime rolls on when we return to Fort Lauderdale.
For your support of Fort Lauderdale United. Thank you, and go Trons! Community of hard-work, passion for something greater than ourselves. Let's make some serious noise for these pioneers, Fort Lauderdale United, where history is just the beginning.
Halftime continues on in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. 3-1 lead for Carolina Ascent over Fort Lauderdale United. Tonight's halftime presented by iHeartRadio. 4 goals in the first 45 minutes. And Saskia, a lot of action to bring you up to speed on with our first half highlights presented by Blue Water Books and Charts.
Yeah, and Fort Lauderdale didn't waste any time. 3 minutes in, the slotted ball by Locklear kind of catch Carolina out of organization on the back line. It's the easy tap-in by Hamid.
But Carolina would not stay silent for long, nor would they stay down for long. It's a flub clearance that sets Carolina up for their...
And then Harding just chipping the ball in, and a completely unmarked Corbin comes in for the easy header.
Brilliant service there back to Mia Corbin, who heads it in her 11th of the season. They weren't done.
No, they weren't, and you're going to love this because Harding calls her own number here. Just touching the ball inside onto her strong foot, and then looks up, sees the keepers off the line, far post upper 90. That's a world-class goal right there.
Harding's going to put that one on her highlight reel, but sounding like a broken record, they still weren't done. 3 unanswered.
They were, and they're so dangerous, Carolina, on corner kicks. You're going to see the service in here. Tricali just gets the little flick on up over Morshea. Morchea's going to want that one back. She stays on her line. She doesn't get caught in no man's land. I think she makes that save.
really the summation of the season for Carolina Ascent. So many goal-scoring options, 3 different goal scorers in the first 45. Here are our halftime stats presented by Beyond Bankard. A 3-1 advantage on the scoreline and pretty much an advantage everywhere else, Saskia, in terms of statistical categories.
I think what stands out to me is the 6 shots, 3 goals. I feel that Carolina should have more shots on target, and possibly more goals. The 58% with the possession stands out as well, seeing that Fort Lauderdale is a possession-based team. They just could not get control of the ball tonight.
Both teams with 3 corners. Carolina scored off one of them. We'll head back to break. Ascent on top, 3-1 over Fort Lauderdale United. Almost go time for the second half in Fort Lauderdale between Carolina Ascent and Fort Lauderdale United. Alex Beeler, our center referee, sounds the whistle. And now we can go for half number 2. Along with Saskia Weber and our Peacock crew, Jake Griffith, glad to have you alongside us this evening at Beyond Bankard Field here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Still 45 left to go, but Fort Lauderdale United trying to find ways to get going offensively, as this will take a skip back, and it's steered back to Leshnek Murphy. Locklear, little flick on. Now Locklear racing ahead. Leshnek Murphy will lunge on it.
And we're already seeing the change in Fort Lauderdale as expected. Addie McCain is now pushed up higher on the field. I would say maybe more of an 8, possibly a 10. We'll see how it pans out, but that's exactly what the change should be for Fort Lauderdale.
Took the words right out of my mouth. My question to you is going to be, how does Fort Lauderdale get things going in this second half? And the answer is, get Addie McCain more involved.
Absolutely. Get her pushed up the field into that space behind her forwards in front of the midfield so she can run at the defense and make things happen. She's such a playmaker. When she's shut down at the 6, it takes it away, especially because she wasn't getting the ball.
Throw in, finds Corbin, strikes this from distance. Took a deflection on its way toward Morshea. No changes at the halftime break, personnel-wise, for either team.
So what you're seeing is Taylor Smith float more into that 6th position. What you're probably going to see is both Felicia Knox, and this is what I was thinking would happen, would probably play a double 6 in there with a double pivot, or Smith is going to take that 6 spot. This is pushing McCain up into the 10. Now you got to get her the ball.
Carolina had backed off a bit of that high pressure as the first half carried on. They're back on it now, but so is Fort Lauderdale back on it. Lifted out wide. If this result holds, Carolina Ascent would be the first team in USL Super League to clinch a playoff spot. Good ball out wide, it finds Lindahl. Give and go, back to Lindahl. Lifts it in the thick of it. Leshnek Murphy reads it all the way.
Much better by Fort Lauderdale. That second run by Lindahl wide on that flank is on every day. You have Addie McCain Knox drawing in Carolina's defense, opening up that space, and we saw that overlapping run. That's on.
More of what we saw from this Fort Lauderdale side in their match against Dallas. The coaching staff had talked to us about that this week, that they created good chances. They liked their combination plays, and there's some of it on display on the give and go. This one takes a skip into the 18, falls to the feet of Harding. Harding on her right. Harding goes for goal.
But in order to do that, you need some possession and you need the ball. And this change with McCain higher up the field, we've already seen it's making a difference.
A definite vibe change if you're Fort Lauderdale, just in the way they're carrying themselves now out on the pitch. Shea looking for a release option. Very nearly coughs that up. Had a lot of pressure in her face. That speaks a bit to the idea for Carolina Ascent, Saskia. They're not taking their foot off the gas pedal right now. Here's Corbin with the win back. Trying to roll it in behind.
And the way to take the gas out of Fort Lauderdale, who came out on the front foot in the first 5 minutes of this half, is to high press. And Carolina's so good at their high press, because we've talked about they get numbers around the ball. We've already seen some turnovers in the defensive third because of it for Fort Lauderdale.
If you're Fort Lauderdale and you're going against a team like Carolina, so committed to that high press, how do you withstand that first 10 to 15 minute flurry?
Spread the field out, find the seams in between. Carolina will get tired of chasing the ball. Work the ball around. Don't force the pass. Take the air out of it. Say, okay, you guys are going to come at us. I'm going to pass around you, pass around you, pass around you. We're just going to keep possession, play keep away for a little bit. Eventually, you get tired of chasing stuff like that. But if you bite on Carolina and you force the pass, they're going to jump all over it.
Merrick's throw in. Promptly won back by Fort Lauderdale. Flick on, intercepted. Now Knox can't hold on to it. Heard from Mia Corbin for Carolina Ascent at the half, and one thing that struck me, she said, we're treating this like it's 0-0 going into the second half. That's such a great attitude to have as a player in a team.
But it's absolutely the mentality you want, because if you're prepping for the playoffs, you can't sit back. You can't say, you know, we've got this, let's make a bunch of subs before the 60th minute, and because Fort Lauderdale's not going to take their foot off the gas. And if you score 3 goals on us in the first half, you know what, we can score 3 on you. That's my mentality if I'm down 1-3. So, no, you have to keep going at them, and I like that Carolina came out in a high press. They didn't change that.
So am I safe to assume that you're not a fan of load management in the NBA?
It depends. Not when you're getting ready for playoffs. It depends. Like, that's a big question.
Out for a Fort Lauderdale.
But home field advantage isn't secured yet. There's still 3 weeks. Carolina wants home field advantage. Absolutely want home field advantage. So you can't say, all right, you know, we're good. You know, yes, we win tonight, we're in. Goals count, goals against count, all that stuff factors in. So, and it's a mentality thing. Like Corbin said, we're going to play this like it's 0-0 right now.
And how often in other sports do we see down the stretch teams, we see it in the NFL sometimes, teams will sit starters on week 17, week 16, as this was pinballing around the 18 and cleared away. They'll sit players the game before the playoffs, and then what happens? They get a bit rusty, they go into the playoffs, and they get knocked out early on.
And that's the same thing we talked about, constantly changing your goalkeeper. Like, yes, you know, Fort Lauderdale has changed, I mean, Carolina has changed their goalkeeper throughout the season, here and there, but Murphy has settled into the starting position. No more changing your goalkeeper. Let her get scored on. It's fine. Let's see how she responds from it going into the playoffs. Especially your back. You don't want to mess with your back.
For the casual soccer fan, just how important is that relationship at the back, especially between goalkeeper and your back 4, your back 5?
It's so important that your back line's in sync, that they know where each other are going to be at all times. They can read each other, they can sense each other. If somebody likes to break lines on the dribble, then you know the other person likes to stay home, and vice versa. Knowing, automatically watching the weak side, knowing where you get to the point as a goalkeeper where you don't have to look, you know where people...
Hamid centers toward goal.
You know where people are positioned. You sense it. And especially at this point in the season, that's incredibly important.
Fort Lauderdale United, since this second half has started, Saskia, you're noticing, both of us are noticing a complete difference in how they're playing as they will make their first change. Cameron Brooks will come on. Sabrina McNeil, who was in the starting 11 last match, also will come on. This substitution brought to you by Omega XL Sport.
And now number 8, Billington Adams. In number 25, Sabrina McNeil. In the 50-point finish.
Alicia Knox, one of the two players coming off for Fort Lauderdale, completed 84% of her passes in her time on the pitch.
I think changing out Knox, putting McNeil, and Knox had won the starting position in the past 3 games, but McNeil's no stranger to that spot. Getting those fresh legs in, you're pushing forward, you're going for the win or the tie, you've pushed McNeil forward, so I think this is a great substitute.
Sabrina McNeil, former MAC Freshman of the Year during her time at Eastern Michigan, as that's out of the reach of Parker, for SEC Forward of the Year in 2022. Parker was a part of an Alabama team that year she won the SEC Forward of the Year, that they reached the College Cup final, and there were 4 future pros, including her, on that team, 1 in the NWSL, 3 here in this USL Super League.
And that just goes to nod that the other ways to get up, to go through this process. You know, Alabama stepping up and just being a force now to reckon with in the NCAA. I'll tell you what, when I played, Alabama didn't play soccer. let me put it that way. I mean, if I told you the teams when I played that were like the big time teams, you'd be like, who? Like, what? It's, the landscape has changed so much, but I love it, and soccer has changed so much, and for women, and you know, all these leagues, the Northern Super League just started, which is awesome. They're gaining great fan support and everything. It's just, like I said, it's a great time to be a female soccer player, female athlete, period.
So many opportunities.
I'm not coming out of retirement.
So, hey, so many opportunities you could, right?
Not really.
Harding racing to the byline has her cross cleared away, but it does go to the idea of, for so long in America, we saw this in the NWSL. People said this all the time. We need to have more teams because there's not enough roster spots for all these talented players. There was a dearth of opportunities at the professional level. Now you have all these opportunities between the Super League, the W League, the Northern Super League, NWSL, who's launching their own second division league, WPSL Pro as well.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, you know, when I played pro, you had to leave the country to play pro. There was no U.S. Pro League. Then we started the WUSA.
This one lifted toward goal, hit off the half volley, deflecting around. Parker will chase this one down for Carolina. Second ball served in. A short clearance away, but more of what we saw in half number 1 of the attacking in waves mentality for Carolina Ascent. A whistle from Alex Beeler will bring a stoppage to it.
And Balcom just got a little bit of a flick. I think the ball just kind of hit her up in the nose. But back to what I was saying, there, you know, I had to leave the country and go play in Japan. There was no pro league. Now, there's just so many options. And the problem with that was, people would say, well, I can't, there was no pro league. And then when we started the pro league, there wasn't spots for everybody, like you said. So you quit, you retire, that's the end of it. And so you have all these great players that could have had huge careers, but there weren't enough teams and there weren't enough places to play. Now there's so many places to play. It's just incredible. It's incredible. I'm still not coming out of retirement. Like, it's good. Way past that.
Play back underway after the stoppage for the injury, as Aguilera will steer this into the middle. Coming up on that hour mark played, Fort Lauderdale still looking for that elusive second goal. In order to do it, they'll need to get some more chances on target. Still just the one shot on target from Hamid, who gives it up.
But those exact turnovers that we're talking about, Gordon just taking too long of a touch there, coming off for me, going all the way back into the defensive third, and now you got all of Carolina's team pushing up. Need to have better technical control of the ball.
One of the stats that really tells the story of this contest, passes in the opposition half, 144 right now for Carolina Ascent, 67 for Fort Lauderdale.
And it tells you right there, it tells you where the majority of the play has been. It tells you where turnovers have been as well.
Corbin tries to fling it outside. It falls right back to Corbin.
Which is why I say Carolina should have more shots on goal.
Racing to that end line now.
If you've spent that much time in the attacking third and you only have 6 shots on goal, 6 shots on goal, you need to create more opportunities for yourself. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to score 10 goals. I mean, there's a goalkeeper back there and a defense, but you should be producing more opportunities.
Alex Beeler will sound the whistle again, delaying the restart. Some big fixtures coming up for this Carolina team. The final 3, Tampa Bay, Brooklyn FC, Dallas Trinity. Brooklyn FC, a team that Fort Lauderdale United will go to take on next week here at the friendly confines. But if this result holds, then you're looking at a scenario, Saskia, for Fort Lauderdale where it's a must-win because they are tied points-wise, that 3-way tie with Brooklyn and Spokane going into match week 31.
You know, when we talked to Tyron Mears and the staff for Fort Lauderdale, the key thing was, and the comment was, on any given day. On any given day, any team in this league can beat any other team. So every point that you can get, every win you can get, you need.
The other thing they really talked about was they try not to pay attention to the outside noise. Don't pay attention to the standings, play our game. They focus a lot inward as opposed to looking outwardly.
And I get that, but it's a little hard to do because you have to know where you're at, and you have to play with a sense of urgency, and you have to say, listen, you know, we want to keep this distance, and it is a motivation. It's important.
It's also hard to do in the era of social media.
Yeah, it's impossible.
The phone.
It's impossible.
I am proud to be.
Everybody, you're off social media for a month. Yeah, that's good. Never gonna happen.
I'm proud to be somebody as a 28-year-old that has very little social media presence these days. This is not a fun place to be. Rolled ahead, looking for Jordan Balcom. First time in a long time her name has been called. Heavy collision near side. Harding goes down, no whistle. Harding stays down, and now Alex Beeler will stop play. Harding slow to get up. Audrey Harding, 38th overall pick by Washington Spirit in the 2021 NWSL draft, made her debut with the team in 2022. She's now back to her feet.
And what you're seeing from Carolina is and the reason you're not seeing Balcom on the ball again anymore is because they've kind of pinched Trucali in, and she's keeping an eye on McCain, let's say. So now, even though McCain has kind of pushed up a little bit more, they've gotten wind of it, they know what's going on, and they're shutting that central part of the pitch down.
Worked out wide now, heading to that end line, and it's rolled across for a goal kick. Fort Lauderdale, time and again down the pitch, they've really tried to utilize that top side of the attack, that left channel, and they haven't had as much success as they'd like down there.
Yeah, Hamid is they're trying to get Hamid isolated on that left side of the pitch, but what Carolina is doing such a good job of is they're forcing her wide. They're allowing her to run that flank, but they're not allowing her to cut back inside onto her right foot, which is what Jasmine Hamid likes to do. And so you're forcing her onto her left foot, and she's running out of kind of options on that side. We've seen some corner kicks, You know, we've seen her just not be able to run down the ball. So it's a good job by Carolina defensively.
That left channel of the attack, something that Fort Lauderdale utilized a lot against Dallas Trinity. 43% of their attacks in their last match coming down it, and they've spent the lion's share of it in this match.
And Carolina obviously knows that. So, but this is where you have to be able to change that philosophy in the run of play. And, you know, when we talk to the Fort Lauderdale coaching staff, you know, describing Adam McCain as having a coach on the field, as a leader, this has to be known. Hey, you know what? This isn't working. Maybe switch Hamid to the opposite side. Maybe let her run against different defenders that haven't figured her out yet. That's a possibility. But something has to change to make that more effective.
Corbin tries to take 2 defenders on. Not successful in that venture. Now defender goes to ground. Aguilera will poke it out. It will be a Fort Lauderdale throw in. Actually, there was a whistle. So much commotion with Fort Lauderdale pleading for the foul. Eventually, there was a whistle, and it will be a free kick instead. Glancing header on. It falls to Balcom. Balcom is in, and Leshnek Murphy jumps off her line and sprawls on it.
This is great work by Balcom. This flick on right here, but that touch right there to bring it down. Unfortunately, on the stride, the ball comes back up and gets her in the quad. So that first touch is great, a little too much on it, and then she can't control the second touch, but well done and smothered by Carolina's keeper.
Jordan Balcom came over via a transfer with DC Power in January of 2025, made 13 appearances during the first half of this USL Super League season. And that is something that, for those not familiar about the Super League, they do take a winter break. In the middle of December through the middle of February, they take some time off, resume almost like a second season, so to speak, as they build toward that playoff push. Saw a lot of movement.
And it's a great pickup for Fort Lauderdale. Balcom's so good in tight space. You see such dynamic runs. We saw some of it there, her explosiveness. And then she's so good if you can get her the ball even when she's posted up on the quick half turn in the shot. We saw that in their last game against Dallas.
Lifted out wide and headed away.
It set up the goal for them on the shot, even though it hit the post. But it's a great pickup. Excellent player.
So much movement during that winter break as well, because the Fort Lauderdale transfers Gia Gorley out, loans her to DC Power. She's having success, made the team of the month for March.
Sometimes it just takes finding your right niche. Like some teams, whether it's...
Some trouble at the back here. Carolina forcing a turnover. It's Corbin going over the bar and out.
Just a little bit of an unfortunate slip back there, but it goes back to what we were saying, that Fort Lauderdale sometimes their own worst enemy on giving the ball away in their defensive third. But what I was saying is sometimes it's just important, like other team structures, their philosophies fit. You don't always find the right team the first time around.
Shania Gordon works it ahead. It's McCain. Lobs it out wide, but the flag comes up. Jordan Balcom not thrilled with the whistle, washing out an opportunity to build up for Fort Lauderdale.
And this was tight, and I know why Balcom's upset, because she was actually waiting on the line, looking down at Carolina's defense, making sure she stayed onside. Better play, though, by Fort Lauderdale, but on the flip side, Carolina having that high line and staying tight together to force that offside. Much better organization from them since the goal in the first half.
McCain back on it. She'll poke it over to Delaney Lindahl. Again, Carolina utilizing that high press to their advantage. It's a short-lived control of it, and it's out for a throw-in. They are relentless with this high press. We talked about knowing when to use it, knowing when to back off a little bit, and they are using it to their advantage right now.
They are, and Fort Lauderdale needs to move the ball quicker, in and out of spaces, in and out of the seams in order to break the press.
Parker able to draw a whistle, free kick awarded to Carolina Ascent. As we come up on the final 20 minutes of regulation. If you're Fort Lauderdale United, have to start figuring things out very quickly, but if you're Carolina Ascent, Saskia, it's just more of the same.
But the question, if you're Fort Lauderdale, you've got to go for some goals. So what's that going to do? It's going to open you up in the back.
Aguilera lobs it in near post, takes a skip out.
So it's going to open you up. You're gonna have more space in between your back line, your midfield, your attack. You're going to have to take some chances. You need the points. You want the points. All is not lost. There are 3 more weeks left in the season, 3 more games left in the regular season, but you've got to go for it here.
It has to be frustrating as well for Fort Lauderdale because you're looking at a team that as recently as March 15th was atop the USL Super League standings after their win away against Brooklyn. Now here's Fort Lauderdale. Too long, too much weight on that pass, looking for Locklear.
And again, Fort Lauderdale needs to figure out a different solution here. They keep making the same pass. Everybody's running at that line. That pass is in, trying to find the seam behind the line, and it's not on. Somebody needs to put the brakes on. Let everybody run by, and now you're wide open and free in front of the defensive line and take a shot from outside.
Nick Murphy lifts it ahead. Another whistle from Alex Beeler. That one style of soccer that Fort Lauderdale playing right now, in terms of the one, I shouldn't say one style, but the one pass they're making, how can they be more varied?
Well, the problem is you're marking yourself up. You're making it yourself very easy to mark. The Carolina back line knows what you're doing. Everybody's running at us. 4 people, 3 people, it doesn't matter. We're going to hold our line. We're going to step together at the same time. That gets you all off sides. At the same time, Murphy's going to play a little bit of a higher line. If you overkick the ball, she's going to come and pick it up. So what you have to do is literally you have to vary those runs. Somebody's got to run, make a secondary run. We saw how effective that was when Lindhall held, and then made that secondary run after everybody had made the run. She was wide open. They need more of that.
Carolina will have a throw-in. Need to run their win streak to 6 consecutive and lock up the first playoff spot here in this USL Super League. Lifted ahead, looking for Balcom. She goes down, and a foul given. Hansborough in the thick of it, bouncing around, it falls toward Balcom. Leshnek Murphy off her line, open net, and pushed wide.
And just a scrappy moment here for Fort Lauderdale, which is what you want at this point in the game. You never know. Put the ball in the mix, something might happen. And you're just going to see Balcom here not give up. Come by. Leshnek Murphy gets another touch on it, which actually drops it into a dangerous spot here. But this is just pure grit by Balcom. And that actually saves the goal. That touch by Murphy to have the wherewithal after you run past the ball, it gets tipped over you to just tip the ball from behind. What a save.
Talk about instincts for a goalkeeper on display. That's some of the most impressive work there. Just floating the hand up and catching it with the
And you saw her eyes follow the ball. A lot of time goalkeepers, that's one of the #1 things they don't do. They don't keep their eye on the ball after it passes them by. She keeps her head on a swivel, her eye, and she just gets that finger up. Had she not done that, that's an open net for Balcom.
2 changes for Fort Lauderdale. Nia Christopher will come on. Telma Hermansdottir will also come on as well.
And I think what you're seeing here by Fort Lauderdale is with Hermansdottir coming on is just having those fresh legs on the outside to run that flank, to get forward. You can see Balcom's just not happy with her performance right now. She knows how close she was to scoring that goal.
Lifted into traffic again, falling through. Credit to this Carolina team as Aguilera sidesteps one defender, sends a shot that's stopped by Morshea. Time and again, they have been able to keep that pressure on this Fort Lauderdale team, preventing long clearances and attacking in those waves.
And what they're doing is really not letting Fort Lauderdale get into any rhythm whatsoever. There has been no consistent flow of play by Fort Lauderdale, where for like 10 minutes, they've put Carolina under consistent pressure, had consistent, penetration. We haven't had that. It's been chippy and chippy and chippy by Fort Lauderdale.
Now Fort Lauderdale, though, and Addie McCain able to turn the pitch on its end. A free kick given a few steps outside this 18. 3 free kick goals this season for Fort Lauderdale United.
It's a little far out for a shot, and as much as I don't think testing Murphy right now with her size, I think dropping this right in over top and letting everybody run onto it, this could be a dangerous ball.
McCain chips it into a crowd, bouncing around, it rolls wide.
And that's exactly what you want to do. One of the hardest things for a goalkeeper is to see, like I've said, everybody running at. So this little chip in there, it's kind of like a Hail Mary in football. You're looking for somebody to get a piece of it, somebody to redirect it on goal.
Fort Lauderdale able to get a couple numbers there in behind and got a foot to it, but just much like what we saw a few trips ago back down the pitch for Fort Lauderdale, just unable to get something on net, still frozen on that one shot on target.
Well, unfortunately with Fort Lauderdale, it's a lot of individual effort right now. It's not collective. That's what I meant by you're not seeing that rhythm and that flow in their midfield and their forwards to create the opportunities.
Being on that same page is something that this Fort Lauderdale coaching staff had talked about earlier this week, that they felt like for majority of the season they've been on it, but now loose ball rolling ahead, the flag is up.
And now you can see Fort Lauderdale looks like for this last 15 minutes is coming out with a press, a high press. That's why they made the substitutes they've had to get fresh legs in there.
Alex Beeler will run over and check on Samantha Leshnek-Murphy, who stayed down after that ball rolled out. She is back to her feet. That's one of those moments if you're Philip Poole and the coaching staff, you hold your breath a little bit because of the way she's played down the stretch and tonight.
Yeah, you do have Megan McClellan, though, on the bench for Carolina. I will give the nod out, Rutgers alum, as am I. So I always got to find a way to give shout-outs to my alumni. But you do have that backup, and she has gotten some play in, and that was where that battle was. And Mears has said how much he likes the battle for a goalkeeper, which is why everybody has stepped up and is playing the way they are.
Works back over to Catherine Gonzalez. Crafty backheel pass to Harding. Harding going for goal again! Oh! Harding, what a goal!
When it's your night, it's your night. And what a goal. You think she couldn't outdo the one in the first half? Well, she just did. Harding's just going to call her number here. She's going to see the far upper 90. And it just doesn't get much better or more difficult than that. Honestly, Murphy does everything right. Morshea does everything right, moving her feet, getting the upper hand to it, but that ball just dips down over top and into the upper 90. World-class goal, world-class goal.
A brace completed in the most impressive fashion for Audrey Harding. 4 unanswered now for Carolina.
It's the Audrey Harding highlight reel tonight.
Now Harding able to win a whistle there from Alex Beeler. As a reminder, if this result holds, Carolina Ascent become the first team to clinch a playoff spot. This is going to be some in-game highlight reel that they're going to go back and look on. Some impressive goals scored tonight for Carolina Ascent, both coming from Audrey Harding.
And aside from the corner kick, where they've been such impressive goals, you're right, and aside from the corner kick with the flick, although on the attack side an impressive goal, obviously that's a play that's you know, worked up on the playground, and it worked, but I see that as a goalkeeper error in the sense that if you stay, it's an easy save. If you come and you don't get the ball, that's what happens. But wow, some great goals. Hats off.
Aguilera, a corner won by Carolina Ascent. Aguilera lofts it near post, and a whistle will bring a stop to it again. Back on it again is Carolina Ascent. Parker can't take the touch, falls back to Fort Lauderdale. It's been the story of the night there, Saskia. They just have not been able, when it falls to their feet, to settle on possession.
They haven't been able to find that rhythm, that 1-2 passing we've seen in the past couple of weeks, the way they played against Dallas, in and out of seams. We haven't seen that tonight. They haven't been able to get their rhythm in this game at all.
Rolled out wide again. Here is Carolina on the offensive. It's Parker, edge of the area. Trying to muscle her way inside. Down she goes, and Alex Beeler points to the spot. A penalty awarded.
And it's one of those moments for Fort Lauderdale where it's kind of one of those little gut checks. Everything seems to be going wrong right now, but guess what? You're still in fourth, and you're still in the playoff hunt. So it's going to be interesting to see how they rebound from this and respond to this.
Nia Corbin will step to the spot. Carolina Ascent perfect so far this year on penalties converted. Corbin has one tonight, now facing off with Morshea. Corbin scores! 5-1 Carolina Ascent.
And this is just calmly tucked away by Corbin. Even though she's sending Morshea the wrong direction, we're going to see the foul right here, and just the sweep of the legs, taking her out from behind. The ball's still playable, that's why it's a penalty, but you just see Corbin just put her inside of her boot through it and place it in that lower 90, sending Morshea the wrong way.
What a night for Carolina Ascent. The clean sheet streak goes away just minutes in. Then 5 unanswered goals for Carolina Ascent. But we'll make 2 changes. Simile Moxley will come on for the 5th time tonight.
And now you're managing the load. Not that you have to wait till you're up by 4 goals, but you do. The other important thing about that is you never know what the next 3 weeks are going to bring and or the playoffs, and so you want everybody to get a little taste. You want to get a run in. You want to get them in game playing. It builds depth, and so when you need to go to the bench, they're ready.
Hamid can't corral it in. Out it goes for a throw. On the Fort Lauderdale side of things, this is, safe to say, not the result you're looking for down the stretch, mired in a 4-match winless skid. What kind of danger does a 5-1 result present in terms of derailing your season?
It's a gut check because it's been a rough couple weeks for Fort Lauderdale. Although in that playoff line and that spot, they haven't really picked up the points. They haven't picked up a win, right? They've picked up a couple points here and there with draws, not finding the back of the net. Coming out and scoring the first goal, it was kind of like, oh, all right, Fort Lauderdale's ready to go. And then, you know, the wheels fell off the bus in a sense. So what do? You regroup from this. You go back in, you say, all right, let's dust that off. You know, we're still in the playoff hunt. How are we going to respond to this?
Fort Lauderdale will make a change as Hamid will come off. Daria Raji will come on. Substitution brought to you by Omega XL Sport. Prior to this 4-match winless skid they're currently mired in, this Fort Lauderdale team went on a league-best 9-match unbeaten streak between December 1st and March 22nd. Now rolled back ahead toward Leshnek Murphy. It's hard to believe that feels like so long ago, and it was just a few weeks ago.
But they know how to win, and that's the point. And so what you say to yourself is, it's kind of that old adage when you're like, you're going into, let's say, a season undefeated, and right before you hit the playoffs, you lose that game. You know, right before you go to the NCAA tournament. And you look at the team and you say, well, maybe it's good we lost. Maybe it's good we realize that we're not invincible, that we have work to do and where our weaknesses are. But it also determines how do you respond from this. They could come back and go on a run. And that's how the fans and I'm sure the coaching staff hopes the team responds to this.
Lobbed up ahead, cleared away by Parker. It's the old adage, right? Win and get in, or just get in and win, I should say. Get in and win.
I mean, this is going to put Carolina into the, obviously this will put them in the playoffs. This secures them a spot. They still, again, don't have home field advantage scored, but with this goal differential, I'm sure that helps on the back end as well. So it's a positive for Carolina. Everything's a learning experience. So how do you learn and grow from this for Fort Lauderdale? You've got the time.
Whipped ahead, just over the head of Corbin. Now this struck wide. Carolina will make 2 changes as Bedoya and Ashlyn Sarepka, who had a brace against Brooklyn back in October, they will both come on.
And number 23, fighting caution. In number 5, Jada Bedoya. In the 86th minute.
Ascent continuing to make changes as Parker will come off and Bedoya now will come on. Former West Virginia Mountaineer, spent 3 years at UConn as well. Riley Parker.
Talk about a school that's had a resurgence. UConn, hats off to Jen Tejan up there, who was somebody I played with and everything. But that was what I was talking about back in the day. Like, what are the schools that were like just the juggernauts, the big schools, and UConn was one of them.
It's so interesting to see how soccer collegiately has changed over the years for men's and women's soccer because, you know, you look on the men's side, right? St. Louis and UCLA, all-time historic teams, and now it's given way to a team like an Akron, for example, as being one of the top teams. Same thing happening as we talked about in college women's soccer with Alabama a couple seasons ago, all of a sudden being this dominant program. Wake Forest this year, a program that, despite being in that Carolina area, hasn't reached that pinnacle in a long time. Make it to the College Cup final against North Carolina, who, of course, North Carolina is the well-oiled, consistent machine. No Anson Torrance, no problem.
But North Carolina hadn't won in a very, very long time.
10 years.
And the fact that was unheard of when I played. I mean, what is it, 23 national championships or whatever? They were always winning. They never went 2 years without winning a national championship. So to go 10 years without winning a national championship just gives the nod out. I think the point is this gives the nod out to the growth of soccer and women's soccer, you know, and seeing here the USL and how talented the players are and how, you know, just what a good quality of play it is.
Florida State, a team that has had some recent dominance, recent success. Santa Clara a couple seasons ago, winning the Women's College Cup. In
UCLA.
Cary. Yes, UCLA as well.
The year after I left, yes.
It always works out that way, right?
Yes, yes.
That ball just rolling across the touchline. For Carolina Ascent, we've talked a lot about Fort Lauderdale, about what this does for them down the stretch, but for Carolina Ascent, you look at where they were at the end of the first half of the season. 5-3-6 record, 3 straight losses, went winless in their final 4 matches. This really feels like a resurgence for them. You talk about peaking at the right time. Carolina is doing that.
But that's what a well-oiled machine is. You know there are going to be hiccups, and you want them to be in the beginning of the season. You want time to figure things out. And we've talked to Carolina, we've talked to the staff, and we know that they feel that they as a collective group are all clicking at the same time. Their rhythm is on point. They are reading each other, and we're seeing it here.
Philip Poole, as a coach, no stranger to talented, successful teams. 5-time She Believes Cup winner with the U.S. Women's National Team, as we mentioned. Spent time with Wake Forest, spent time with the Charlotte men's side as well. Now here comes his Carolina Ascent team, wanting more late.
But you feel it when you're watching Carolina. They believe. They haven't, toned it down at all. They're still playing smart. They're going after it when they can. They're finding spaces. But every time they get around the box, you get that feeling like they're going to score. And it's not a negative on Fort Lauderdale. It's just sometimes when teams are clicking that well, you get that sense of it's always going to be threatening. No matter what happens, if they're on the attack, they're going to threaten.
They lead the league this year in big scoring chances created, and you talk about spending that time in the opposition area. 63 final third entries tonight. They've held Fort Lauderdale to just about 30 on the night, which again, stats telling, they say numbers never lie, right? And stats telling the story there of Carolina's dominance, not just on the score line, but in the run of play.
And it's just from controlling the ball and having just the quality of possession, but again, quality possession. Their possession has been effective. Every time they get 1-2 touches in, they're in on goal. They're putting pressure on the back line, and that's what you want when you have possession. Move the ball around, but how are you going to be effective?
5 minutes of stoppage time here at the end of regulation. Catherine Gonzalez, a second-half substitute, couldn't keep it in.
You know, the other thing you get when so many different players on your team have scored is so many different players on your team want to score again because they're hungry. They have that taste. You know, they're not just set-up women. They're not just there to give assists to your top players. They're like, I want to score. I want to get up there. I want to get in the box. And that's just that attack and winning mentality.
Was there ever a time when you were sitting there in net and your team was playing, had a bunch of goals, and you said, you know what, maybe, hey coach, move me up a little bit. Let's push the keeper up a little bit further.
Well, there's times that you go up to get the, when you're down and you go up at the end of the game. I almost got an assist once. Somebody stole that away from me. They tapped it in at the last minute off a punt, off a drop kick.
Erman's daughter centers this one in front. Put home by Fort Lauderdale. Addie McCain.
And here you're gonna see, watch right here, just not giving up this nice ball into middle, nobody marking up McCain. The fact that McCain can get 2 touches on this in the box, unmarked, that's taking the foot off the gas for Carolina, and you're not going to be happy with that this late in the game. You've got to be touch tight to McCain. She can't take a turn here, but on the flip side, McCain, it's just great positioning. She finds that little seam in the box, 1-2 touch into the back of the net.
That Fort Lauderdale United goal scored by Addie McCain in stoppage time. Brought to you by Baptist Health.
And that moves her in a tie for first, doesn't it, as the goal on the Golden Boot with 10.
McCain with 10 goals on the season. Does have a bit of a feeling of too little, too late, though. But if you're Carolina, like you said, that's not something you want to give up there at the end of a contest like this.
When I said everything's a learning experience, this is a learning experience for Carolina. Why, in extra time, did we take our focus off and allow McCain to score? Because if this is a tighter game right now, let's say it's tied or something, you've just lost the game. And so you have to act like Corbin said, it's 0-0 at all times, and it was obvious that she wasn't marked up, and everybody just was like, oh, McCain's got the ball. So those are the learning experience you'll take away from this, even though you win 5-2.
Well, here's Fort Lauderdale wanting more. That's cleared away, out for a corner. Outswinging ball, dropping at that penalty spot, but headed away. Lindahl serves it back in, deflecting through, whistle sounds. Addie McCain, goal scorer for Fort Lauderdale. She is your performer of the game, brought to you by Baptist Health.
And had they gotten McCain forward, the changes that they made in the second half, we saw the immediate impact of that with McCain playing more of the 10, playing a little higher up the pitch. Maybe if Fort Lauderdale had started the game that way, things would have been a little bit different. But it was Carolina's night. Carolina's just on tonight.
Heading for the corners is Corbin, trying to take more time off this clock.
But the takeaways for Fort Lauderdale is this: never give up. And what you have to be proud. Hey, they came and got another goal towards the end of the game. They never put their heads down. They still try to be effective, and you pull another goal back. That's a positive to me, in my opinion.
A bright spot and a tough night for Fort Lauderdale. Carolina Ascent, an offensive explosion on the road. Scored 5 unanswered at one juncture. They win it, and they clinch the Super League's first playoff spot available this season. Saskia, what a performance on the road for Carolina.
It's a great performance on the road. Hats off. They should be really excited for what's in front of them. Clinching a playoff spot is huge, especially 3 games out of the playoffs. That means you have time to make some adjustments. You're not under the gun per se, but you do want to win home field advantage.
Now 6 straight wins for Carolina Ascent. Audrey Harding joins us now on the broadcast. Audrey, an impressive performance for your team. What was working for you all tonight, all night long?
Well, we had told ourselves just like...
Back in Fort Lauderdale, it's all final, and Carolina Ascent have wrapped up a playoff spot, a 5-2 victory over Fort Lauderdale United here on match day 30. Our full-time highlights presented by Blue Water Books and Charts. And Saskia, it first was Fort Lauderdale asking questions of Carolina.
Yeah, we're going to see this pass into the box by Locklear, and then Hamid's just an easy tap-in. And we were off and running for Fort Lauderdale with 3 minutes into the game, but that stopped really quick because the answer from Carolina on this miss clear, and then Harding just dumping into the back, and a wide open, unmarked Corbin tucks it away.
Anytime you allow Mia Corbin to get that much space, she's going to make you pay, and she does. Noggin into the back of goal for her 11th.
And then this is going to be a little bit of a theme for the night. And we've got Harding calling her own number here, seeing that keeper's a little bit too far off her line, and then just a world-class finish to the far upper 90. But this is a theme. Morshea a little bit too far off her line, and Harding with the laces through the ball, upper 90.
Such an impressive goal. She would not be done, but this, an important save from Morshea and company, officially our save of the game presented by Omega XL Sport.
And it's a great save. Comes out, closes space right here, Morshea, but then when you watch it from another angle, that last second kick up of the foot is what keeps that ball out of the net.
Then off a corner, Carolina Ascent, the most dangerous team on corners in the league, they strike again.
And Chakali comes into that space. Morshey caught a little bit in no man's land, gets that flick on for another goal. And then here it is, another world-class shot by Harding, catching Morshey a little bit off her line and puts it away, upper 90 again.
Audrey Harding, the former UNC Wilmington Seahawk, having a night, a brace, and then in the 80th minute, a penalty drawn by Riley Parker.
And then Corbin just passes this into the side of the net. What you're supposed to do on a PK, pass it into the corner.
In stoppage time, Fort Lauderdale would start to find a little bit here, and it's Addie McCain.
Yeah, and taking a little bit of gas out of Carolina here. Nobody marking up Addie McCain inside the box at the top of the 6. She makes you pay for that, and now she's at 10 goals in the Golden Boot race.
Our full-time stats presented by Beyond Bankard. 5 goals, 2 braces for 2 different players for Carolina Ascent. Talk about an offensive explosion.
And this is what we were talking about at halftime. We wanted to see Carolina be more efficient because they're getting so much pressure in and around the box and so much possession in their attacking third, and they came up with 5 goals tonight.
The biggest stat that jumps out, not just the 5 goals, but the 2 shots on target that Fort Lauderdale United were held to. So much focus on the offense for Carolina, but it really all started with their defense.
And Fort Lauderdale just could not get their rhythm tonight. I'm sure they're going to go back to the board, change some things, tweak some things. They've got 3 more games to make it to keep themselves in the playoff hunt. So we'll see how they come out this coming weekend. But yeah, they've got to be more efficient and play with more rhythm.
Carolina Ascent, 6 wins on the bounce down the stretch. They and Phillip Poole are heading to the playoffs. A 5-2 victory over Fort Lauderdale United. For Saskia Weber, John Sofaro, our producer, and the rest of our broadcast team, I'm Jake Griffith saying so long from Fort Lauderdale. Carolina heading to the USL Super League playoffs.